I was like, oh my God, I was so unhappy. I was so confined. And I think that's what I was feeling was like that there was all these like cords around me, that it was putting me in that little separate standby role. And I wasn't really like living or being the star of my own life.
Welcome to Pathways to Purpose, Stories from the Freedom Collective, where we journey alongside remarkable women who have dared to follow that little internal voice and create a life that's in alignment with who they truly are. If you're at a place in your life where you're asking yourself, what's next? Who am I? And what do I really want? Go to iamthefreedomcollective.com and grab yourself the video series, The Power Within. This resource, it's free right now because I want to help empower as many women as I can. It'll give you 7 keys that were never taught in school or university, so you can gain a new level of clarity and start creating a life and work that reflects who you truly are. Now I'm excited, let's get into this incredible story. Today I have the privilege of speaking with Alisha. She grew up in LA. She was always the sidekick, always the supporting role in the movie, which seems appropriate for LA. And along that journey, she's had to overcome multiple obstacles, being in a religious kind of environment, overcoming an abusive relationship, moving all the way across the country to finally discover who she truly is, what she's capable. And today I'm just so honored to be able to highlight her story and share it with you. Also, welcome Alisha, and thank you so much for taking time to speak with us today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, to kick off, there's a big journey that you've been on along the way. And what I really want to understand is, was there a moment there that you started to realize, there might be more for me. There might be more available. What happened to you?
Yeah, so I actually think I put that all together in hindsight. So I got into graduate school, I got accepted to graduate school in New York City. I always thought I would live in California forever. I was a Southern California girl. It was the best state in the whole country, in my opinion, at that time. No longer is. But then I was like, well, maybe I should try moving for school. It's a good reason. I can always come back. And I got into Columbia University in New York, and I was like, well, guess I'll do this, and moved across the country. And I literally can still feel it. I remember sort of stepping out into the city one of the first days that I was there, and I just felt like I could breathe for the first time. And it was the weirdest sensation. I don't know that I felt like I was holding my breath for so long or that there was something heavy there for so many years. But the longer I started spending time in that new city, because I had traveled a lot in my life, but never lived anywhere else out of Southern California, I was like, oh my God, I was so unhappy. I was so confined. And I think that's what I was feeling was like, that there was all these like cords around me, that it was putting me in that little separate standby role. And I wasn't really like living or being the star of my own life. And that sensation of I'm allowed to just be whoever I want to be here. I can go to the grocery store without makeup on. Nobody's looking at me. There's beautiful people that look and speak so many languages and are from so many places here. And I can fit into that too. And so I think that was definitely that turning moment where I realized how limited I'd been living, but just kind of had accepted that role and didn't really realize there was anything wrong with it, or that I wasn't really as happy as I thought or fulfilled as I thought.
How long did that process take? Because I've experienced that too, where that moment of like, I can breathe. I didn't realize I wasn't breathing.
Mm-hmm.
How
That
long
was
did that
pretty
take?
quick into my first like week of being in the city, like really like living there. I had visited a few times, but actually saying like, I live here now. But I will say the whole journey of putting things together and unlearning that role and feeling like I even had permission to be in this different role and dreaming bigger than I had been. All of that definitely took more time. And I think in some ways I'm still remembering that or learning that. But that release was pretty immediate. Which is, it still like strikes me when I think of it. I'm still like, wow, that was wild because I didn't even know it was something I needed or something that was I was expecting to have happen, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. So when you had that realization, what was your first step? What did you do? How did you embrace that?
I think I sat on it for a little while. I don't know that I knew what to do with it.
Yeah.
um, but it started with just like taking little tentative steps of, okay, well, I'm gonna put myself out there in this way. I had to find new friends. I had to do new things. I didn't know anybody. So I was like, well, I'm gonna say hi to the person or go to the new thing or try this new food or wear this new style. And so I think it started in these small ways. And when I was getting feedback that no one's laughing at me, no one's telling me that's wrong, no one's mad that I'm overshadowing them, people are celebrating me, people don't really care. I think it just kept giving me more and more permission to keep stepping into these more authentic pieces of myself that I hadn't really attended to as much for 22
Wow.
years prior. So,
It's really big.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that that can happen for us in multiple stages along our lives, in
Yes.
different little snippets, right? Because for some
Mm-hmm.
people it's 20 years in, for some people it's 40 years in, for some people it's 60 years in.
Yeah.
These moments of like, I didn't realize that I could do something different. I didn't realize there was more here for me
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
experience, to enjoy. I didn't know I could wear the bright colors. I didn't know I could do the side hustle, start the job, do
Yeah.
something different.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it plays
Yeah.
out in so many ways. Okay, so you moved across country.
Mm-hmm.
When you went home to California, how did you navigate that piece? Because when you change, right, when you go through this massive adjustment and you start to change, then you go back to an old, familiar kind of
Yep.
place. It tries to pull you
Rein you
back
back
into
in.
who you were. How did you navigate that?
I still remember, and there are moments to this day, and I haven't lived in LA since 2009, so it's been a minute. I've lived many other places since New York too, but I still packing for home, my original home. I still get this anxiety of like, oh, I don't have anything to wear. I don't know if I'm gonna bring the right stuff. Like, what do we need to do? How do I need to present? And it's funny because the friends I had there, my family, they could care less. They're not like, like whatever, we just are happy to see you. But it's something about that city, right? And so I think in the beginning, it definitely was sort of this challenge of reconcile my desire to remain connected to my long-term friends and to be back home, and they had all stayed at that point and kind of just like getting back into the groove, but I would fall back into sort of that pattern in those friendships or sort of those more unhelpful maybe beliefs or habits or insecurities for the little bits I would be home. But I'd say the longer I was away and the more time in between, that has definitely lessened and isn't, maybe it's just that like packing anxiety thought that comes up and I'm like, this is so dumb. I have fine clothes to wear. It's fine. But it's still just funny how that like, even with all the work and all the iterations, sometimes those snares still can snag when you're least expecting it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is such a big part of the process, which is important for people to have as a note in their mind that if they're going to embrace change, if they're going to make some, big steps and change themselves, step into a more authentic version of themselves, those old patterns, they do try and grab you. That fear does try and grab you. And there's this skill of learning to catch those thoughts and be able to deal with them, not
Yeah.
just push them aside and go, I should be over that. Or
Mm-hmm.
how do you deal with those? What little tools and strategies do you use for yourself when you're having those little moments?
I think I've had to use a lot of them most recently because I just kind of stepped into a new role as a coach. I've been a therapist for many years and I still actively am a therapist, but I'm expanding my career. And I know how to be a therapist. I have years of training. I know I'm good at it. I know my population. I know what to do. But in this new role, all of that old imposter syndrome and like, oh my gosh, who do you think you are? Or I think there's just a lot more vulnerability in the coaching space too than in the therapeutic role, just that level of disclosure and kind of how you engage with clients at times. That could be debatable, but to me, there's like kind of a difference. Um, and I think it has come up a lot lately of like, are you sure you can do this? Why would anyone want to, listen to you for help or support? And what I've had to do is just kind of remind myself that, yeah, I am actually I'm qualified. I do know a lot of things. Like look at these other people that are doing something similar. If they can do it, I can do it. And I can also learn, and I don't have to know it all, and I don't have to be an expert, and I don't have to be the best at it. I just have to be authentic and show up and make sure I'm in, like this word alignment you've used a lot, but like in alignment with myself, and be sure of
Yeah.
who I am and confident in that. And that's enough. And then I can show up in all these roles. I can go back home and be there and just be me. I can be in my relationships now. I can be in my professional roles. It's sometimes it's a fake it till you make it, but it's just that reminder of it is possible. I actually do know more than I think. I actually am more confident and secure and have things to offer. And I need to live in that space, not the what ifs, not the doubts, not the worries.
If someone was in a place in their life where they wanted to try something, whether it's a new job, whether it's a creative pursuit, whether it's a side hustle, but they're feeling that fear, or they're feeling that moment of like, oh, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them?
I'd say, well, you're definitely never going to know if you don't try. I think the best way to combat overwhelm or indecision or fear is to do something. My coaching mentor always says that, like the best antidote for overwhelm is just action. And sometimes that sounds counterintuitive, like, well, how can I act if I don't know? I don't know what to do. Um, but you do. If you're desiring it, if you're thinking about it, if you're wondering about it, if it's something you're passionate about, then you have the abilities, you have the tools. No one can do that thing like you're going to do it. There might be 800,000 other botanists in the world, but no one is you. Like no one knows plants and flowers, and I don't even know if I know what that word totally means, but whatever. If there's something with plants, I don't know what that came to my mind, but like no one can do that like you, right? And so I think that's this thing I'm learning as well, especially in the coaching market. It's very saturated. There's lots of folks that have lots of things they want to do to help people. Some are not as helpful, some are amazing, and then you have everything in between. But no one is me, and no one has my lived experiences and my background and my unique blend of tools and skills and education. And so I can still show up, and there will be someone who I can help. And I don't need to help everyone, and I don't need to be everyone's cup of tea or the right fit for all the things. And when you can release that, it's very freeing instead of paralyzing. And so I think if you're considering it, if you're curious about it, if you are wanting more, then go try. The worst thing that's going to happen is it's not that successful. You're not that interested. It wasn't what you imagined. So you don't have to do it anymore. You can always pivot. You can always do something different. You can always let it go. But if we don't even try, we'll never know. And to me, that's a worse fate than trying and it not panning out exactly as you imagined. If anything, it might pan out even better. Because often I think we limit ourselves so much with our expectations and or over planning sometimes. So
Yeah. Where have you experienced that, where you've stepped into an unknown place and it's worked out better than what you thought?
professionally, I think both with diving into social work, which is my background for therapy, I didn't really know much about it. I just was like, guess I'll go to school and figure it out. And then same with kind of starting into coaching. I obviously knew what it was, but just kind of like, I, I think this is the next thing I want to do. And here we are, and I'm really loving it. But personally, I made a big move from New York down to New Orleans with my ex, but boyfriend at the time. We had been together about 5 years. It was a very unhealthy relationship. It was one of those, I got to see this through, like the last hurrah. We got down there. I knew nobody. I quit my job. I packed up all my stuff. I moved down to this place I had visited one other time and didn't know a soul, in a state I never thought I would live in. And 3 months later, he was like, nah, I'm going back to New York. And I was just left there all alone to figure it out. Needless to say, we broke up. It was the best thing ever for me. It's where I met my now husband. So it all worked out for the best. But I kind of just stepped out into faith of like, I'm going to go live in Louisiana in a city I don't really know much about. And I know this relationship isn't good for me, but also I'm feeling like this is an opportunity to maybe learn or see something else because I felt like there was a something else that needed to come. And I just did it and it worked out amazingly, right? Like it led to a lot of incredible things I could have never planned for or calculated for. And if I hadn't just sort of stepped out in that faith of, I'm going to move into this next space, whatever it is, my life would look really different today. So I'm thankful I did it. But yeah, that could be maybe a personal example.
Yeah, I love that. I think we can get paralyzed in that place of what is my purpose? What is, because that's a really big question, a really big thing to ponder. And what is my purpose? What's my mission? What am I supposed to be doing with my life? And I think sometimes we can get stuck in that place of like inaction and just like, and thinking that I have to have it figured out before I move. But what you just shared about so many of those pivotal moments in your journey and your story has been stepping in and following just that maybe just that little internal voice like, I think this is next. I think it is.
We'll
kind of feels right. Yeah. I guess that's a really key piece for us to remember when we're looking for what's next. Is this right? What's the next thing? What direction is my life moving? Is sometimes the answer is simply in the action, simply in the movement and trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on this idea of like, what's coming to mind for me is how we can get caught up in that place of wanting to get the answer right before, or get the decision right before moving. What if it's the wrong decision? What if it doesn't work out? How do you deal with that? How would you maybe coach someone through that if they were in that place of paralysis?
That question hits home because I'm definitely love rules, definitely a firstborn. And I really like getting things right. Like I want the gold star. I want to get the A's. I want people to like me. I want the teacher to be happy. I want to make you feel seen and heard if you're up talking to me. I'm gonna like nod and like make sure you know I'm listening so you're not alone. So that is such a piece that has, I think, definitely kept me paralyzed at times of the fear of it not being perfect. So why even try, or why even start? Or I want to learn and do it in private and then I'll show you when I'm ready. But I, like you said, some of the most incredible turns and opportunities and new chapters of my life have come when I had no idea. It was very messy. It was not perfect. It wasn't even all that planned very well. And those have been some of the best. And so I think I try to hold space, or I would, like ask someone, well, what does perfect even mean? How would you even know something is perfect? And why does there have to be a right or a wrong? Like, why can't it just be? There's very few things in life that happen or that we do that we're really just totally screwed on, right? Like maybe it wasn't the best choice, maybe it wasn't the ideal choice, maybe it was the much longer path to get there. But if we continue to live within our values and our dreams and within our authentic selves to the best of our abilities in different seasons, we're gonna keep coming back to the right path, right? And everyone's journey is going to be a bit different. And again, some might be a little bit messier and harder and steeper and zigzaggy to get there. But along the way, you still are with yourself. You're still learning about yourself, you're still growing. And so I don't think there is a perfect, or there is a right or wrong, or there is a ideal preparation. Instead, I think it's just doing. Because there's so many doors I would have missed if I had some like 10-year plan and it was just like right here with my head down, like I want to be married at this age, or I want this, or I want that. And if I hadn't been just like here for the ride, I would have I wouldn't have lived in 5 states. I definitely don't think I would have met my now husband. I don't think I'd own my cat who I'm obsessed with 8 years later because I thought I hated cats. Like I wouldn't have the palate I have because I thought I didn't like all these types of foods. I wouldn't have traveled to the places I've traveled to. Like there I just think that sometimes we want to protect ourselves, which is normal, but by doing so, we're actually hurting ourselves and we're closing ourselves off from such rich, beautiful opportunities that are just waiting for us. Like they're right there. We just have to kind of see them and be like, okay, I'll go for it. And I think so many people are just afraid to do that and maybe have good reason to. And, like obviously don't be totally reckless. Like there's, some balance, but if it's within something that feels authentic and aligned and within your gut and your passions, your soul, your dreams, do it. You're only hurting yourself to hold back,
Yeah, that is so powerful. I love that. I really want to encourage anyone that's listening that if you felt inspired by Alisha's story, reach out, connect with her on socials. If you're in a space where you're like, yeah, I do want to take some next steps and Alisha's story is really resonating with you, go check out the links in our bios. There's some great free stuff to get started, and don't limit yourself. There is so much available for you. And I just want to encourage everyone to listen to that little internal voice.
Mm-hmm.
What's it saying?
Mm-hmm.
What's it been saying for all of these years that you've been squashing it down? You've been putting it on the shelf. Maybe you've been saying, oh, but I have to be responsible for all these other people. Or what's going to happen with this? What's going to happen with that? I can't because the kids I can't because of this, or I can't because of. Just start to notice what those thoughts are that are coming through. What are the reasons that you're telling yourself why you can't?
Yeah.
And that is something that is really great to connect with a coach on, to be able to just, break it down, to be able to like hear yourself.
Yeah.
Speaking out some of the things that are in your heart. So I want to encourage people to connect with yourself and listen and get curious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because she's
Alisha,
very wise. You know more than you think you know. So
you know more than you think you know. Yeah. Alisha, is there anything that you'd really like to leave our listeners with today?
I think at the end of the day, I just want to remind people, and this is a reminder for myself included, and especially all the ladies out there, you are worth it. You should be the author of your own story. You should be the one driving your own car. You should be the one making those choices for yourself. I'm giving you permission. Give yourself permission. That is the way to live. Everyone else will get taken care of. You can still love and nurture and be there for others. But if you are not showing up and believing you deserve that same level that you're giving everyone else, it's all going to fall apart. And you're really living not the happiest life that you think you are or that you could be having. So just remember your inherent worth, that you have all the tools, all the knowledge, all the ability to live that dream life, to make those things happen, to step into that power and use it every single day. And I hope that for you, and I try to live that way myself.
Thank you so much for your time, Alisha. I know I've been inspired by your story, and thank you for giving me permission, and thank you for giving the ladies listening permission to step into that place, to experience more, and to remember that they are worth it. It's beautiful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here and to get to share my story and connect with you. And I'm inspired by the work that you're doing as well.
Thanks for joining us today. If you were inspired by that story, please check out the description below this video because it will have all of the links that you need to connect with our guest and access their incredible resources. If you're in a place where you're feeling like, yeah, I know that there is something more for me and I want to start taking those next steps, but I'm not quite sure where to start, we have got your back here at the Freedom Collective. So again, in the description below, there are links to an incredible free resource. It's a 7-part video series where I give you 7 keys that we're never taught at school, we're never taught at university. And what these keys will do is they will help to start putting those foundation pieces in place so that you can bring your life into alignment with who you truly are. Your life, your work, your dreams, the things that are resonating at your core. So check that out, connect with our guests, they're incredible. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, please share it with them. And we look forward to sharing another story with you again shortly on Pathways to Purpose, Stories from the Freedom Collective.